There was a time when 18-year-old men were called to war to fight for their countries and their freedom. Nowadays, men scroll through TikToks and Instagram reels on their phones. There was a time when men had to build and create themselves to find their purpose. And nowadays, men wear pajama bottoms to the gym just to keep up with trends and fit in with everyone around them. There was a time when men had to walk up to women and talk to them and call them on the phone and get their phone number and meet up with them in order to seduce them. Nowadays, men just watch porn on the internet and pay women on OnlyFans just to talk to them promiscuously. There was a time when men worked with their hands by the sweat of their brows out in the fields and in workshops, and they did that in order to provide for their families. Nowadays, men just sit in their offices all day working their white-collar jobs, and they even abandon their families instead of taking care of them because life is just easier without that kind of responsibility. Now, all this isn't just to say that TikTok is bad. It's not all to say that the internet is bad or that working white-collar jobs is necessarily bad. But look at how all these things stacked on top of each other have shaped the habits and how modern men spend their time. Testosterone levels in men have been decreasing by about 1% every single year for several decades now. I mean, whatever happened to the generation of masculine men? What happened to all the men with balls? Why do 18-year-old guys look like little boys compared to 50 years ago when 18-year-old guys actually looked like men? Seriously, like, some of the most cringy conversations that I have ever heard in my life have been in the men's locker room at the gym, of all places. I mean, locker room talk used to involve men talking about their goals and their accomplishments, their relationships and their ambition. And now men literally talk about social drama and girls in the locker room. I mean, I've literally heard grown men in the locker room talking about drama with girls. Who's ghosting who? Who's sliding into whose direct messages? Who's matching with who on Tinder? Who's talking to who? I mean, it's like watching a freaking soap opera or an episode of some reality TV show. But you see, every aspect of modernity is centered around demasculinizing men because masculine men are hard to control. And this is not some new concept either. I mean, rulers and authorities or whatever entity that you want to place in charge of whoever makes all of these calls in our society. Whoever these people are that drastically shape the norms of culture and society, they have been devising ways to make people easier to control for generations. And one of the most effective ways to gain more power and control over a society is to make sure that the men are weak. I mean, just think about everything that we have seen as of the year 2023. Like, this isn't a conspiracy anymore. There are toxic chemicals in the foods that we eat. We know this. There are poisonous compounds in the water that we drink. There are literally teams of food scientists who work full-time jobs at some of these big corporate companies just to make sure that the foods and the drinks that have all of these synthetic chemicals in them, they work to make sure that they are addicting. And then the pharmaceutical industry swoops in, and now doctors prescribe drugs to alleviate the symptoms of consuming these toxic poisons. And all of these exposures conveniently lower testosterone levels in men. Throw all this on top of staying cooped up inside of an office all day long, not getting a lot of sunlight exposure, and not getting a lot of exposure to nature like we're supposed to, and it's a wonder that the average life expectancy for a man isn't way lower than what it actually is. So men's diets are trash, men's exercise habits are trash, men's connection with nature is trash, and these are just the physiological ways that masculinity is under attack. Now, psychologically, men are encouraged to pretty much just sit down, shut up, follow the rules, and do as they're told. And this literally completely goes against a man's nature. Men are meant to be risk takers. Men are meant to be competitive. Men are meant to strive for excellence. I mean, the American dream used to be centered around hard work. It used to be something along the lines of, if you were willing to work hard, you would prosper in this country. And that's not the American dream anymore. It's all built around laziness. It looks something along the lines of, doing the least amount of work to get the absolute most that you possibly can. That's why Tim Ferriss's book, titled The 4-Hour Workweek, was such a best-selling book, because it's completely centered around this idea of doing the absolute bare minimum to get the most that you possibly can. If you are a man watching this, you need to understand that it is your duty to rise above this bullshit. It is your duty to be strong in every aspect, physically, mentally, and spiritually. It is your job to establish habits that aim to optimize your bodily health. It's your job to aspire to be a leader and to set an example for those around you. And that's a very unpopular thing to say in 2023. So despite what society poisons your brain into thinking, being a man is very difficult. It is hard to be disciplined. It's hard to establish healthy habits. It's hard to say no to the poisonous ideas and the temptations of the world. And being a man isn't something that you're just born with. Being a man is something that you create and build. It's something that you work towards and you become every single day. I mean, there are grown-ass men in this world with absolutely no balls. Being a man, it has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with discipline. So go to the gym. Go lift heavy weights. Train your body to become stronger. Reach that physical peak by lifting weights and getting stronger. Track the foods that you eat. Quit eating junk food. Delete your social media apps. Wake up earlier and go to bed earlier. Do everything that you can possibly do to take control of your life. And one thing that you need to do in order to do this is to develop a sense of self-competence. You need to put things into perspective and realize your value as a man. And if you want to do something as simple as just use statistics here, just compare yourself with the majority of men out there. I mean, I'm no skyscraper of a man or anything. I'm literally 5'7". That's pretty short. But that doesn't make me think less of myself. I mean, I have a pretty crooked nose too. I mean, you see here, I have a deviated septum. I was born with it. I don't have the best hairline in the entire world either. I mean, it's not like I'm some genetic gold mine here. But I don't let any of that define my value. Because at the end of the day, I know that I make more money than the majority of men on this planet. I know that I take better care of my body than the majority of men on this planet. And I am still younger than the vast majority of men on this planet. There's literally nowhere to go but up for me. And I'm not saying all of this to brag about my accomplishments or to just boast and be egotistical about this. I'm telling you this because you need to use some of these things to realize your value as a man. You're not ugly and you're not worthless. You just have bad habits. And it's something that is completely in your control to fix. And that should encourage you. Because maybe you are 6 feet. Maybe you're taller than 6 feet. That's great. Maybe you do have way better genetics than me. That's great. Maybe you are just a naturally good-looking dude. That's great. Maybe you probably make more money than I do. Any of those are great, man. That means you need to start carrying yourself like you're worth some next level shit. Like literally think Ricky Bobby level self-confidence. Think Ricky Bobby level energy. You know that line, yeah, what can I say? I'm the best there is. I wake up in the morning and I piss excellence. If you have to rely on other people to tell you that you're a freaking boss, then that means you have no sense of self-worth. When you carry yourself like this, you give off a whole new level of energy that no one else around you has. So let me tell you a little story about myself here. Back in 2022, literally last year as of this recording, I stepped down from my comfortable salaried engineering position to work as a real estate acquisitions manager. Totally new to me. I knew nothing about real estate or very little. I'm a chemical engineer by trade, I guess, if you will. And I was paid practically all commission on this new real estate job, so my next paycheck was no longer guaranteed to me unless I busted my ass and closed some real estate deals. That was very new for me, and it was very uncomfortable for me. But the point of me telling you this story is this. I knew I would be okay. I didn't ask a single person in my life if they thought it was a good idea for me to step down from my engineering job and try this new thing. I didn't get anyone's input as to whether or not I should pursue this because I knew I would be fine. I believed in myself so strongly that I could have had probably 13 people in my life telling me how stupid of a decision this was. I would have done it anyway. Another thing you need to understand is that I had an established track record of figuring things out too. So it's not like I was just jumping into this completely blind, or I made no, general ballpark sense of calculated risk. I knew that I had the problem-solving skills to come out just fine if something went wrong. So I'm not saying that you should just make some huge drastic change in your life if you have no track record of successfully taking calculated risks. But here's the thing about this. Society wants you to just go along with the crowd. They don't want you to have this almost delusional sense of self-belief. They want you as a man to just be like everybody else. They don't want you to reject modernity and embrace masculinity. So my whole channel is about teaching men how to optimize their testosterone levels naturally, and one of the most common myths about testosterone that I hear is that high testosterone levels make you angry and extremely aggressive. Nothing is further from the truth. Having high testosterone levels helps you stay calm and collected, because you also have low cortisol levels, and cortisol is a stress hormone. Same with adrenaline. When you have high testosterone levels, you usually have lower adrenaline levels, and adrenaline is also a stress hormone. Your stress hormones are low because your testosterone levels are high, and if your stress hormones are low, you have a much easier time staying calm and collected. So that's a myth. So expressing anger and not knowing how to manage it, that is not a sign of high testosterone. Getting angry and lashing out in aggressive speech or aggressive actions, that demonstrates an inability to stay calm and collected. And this is not masculine. I don't care if you can beat the shit out of another dude at a bar to assert your dominance. You want to know what the ultimate demonstration of being masculine is? Not letting something bother you. Not letting something get under your skin. Not letting your emotions be thrown off center. Knowing how to stay calm and collected. I mean, we live in this world that tells men that they need to learn how to express their emotions and talk about their feelings. Like, men are straight up encouraged to go sit down in rooms with shrinks and talk about their feelings and their emotions with these therapists. And women all talk about how they want a sensitive man who listens to them and understands their feelings. But guess what's happening out there? All these nice guys that do these things, they're getting ghosted, they're getting rejected. Women cheat on guys like this. They leave guys like this. They divorce guys like this because it is not masculine. And women want masculine men, despite what they say they want masculine men. To reject modernity and embrace masculinity, you need to stop making decisions based on your emotions and start living your life according to logic and reason. Stop doing what feels good and start doing what factually just makes sense. Stop letting the opinions of other people get you all worked up and stop caring so much. And you know what? Maybe you think this is extreme. Or maybe you think this is me encouraging you to be an asshole. But you want to know what that little voice is telling you all that? That is modernity. It's the lies of our modern society telling you that masculinity is toxic and that you need to sit down, you need to shut up and listen and do as you're told and be a good little boy who gets along with everybody. It is our culture and the pollution of our culture telling you that you need to tiptoe around everybody's feelings so that you don't offend anyone. I mean, you need to have the willingness to lead and not follow. Leading is inherently masculine, and there are a lot of different ways to lead. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to become the CEO of the company that you work for. You just need to set an example in everything that you say and do. One of the lessons that my mom taught me that has always stuck with me throughout all the years of my life is to be your own man. Being your own man and not being afraid to set a bold example, that is leadership. It's not commanding people what to do. It's not being the boss. It's not making all these big decisions. It's literally as basic as you setting an example for those around you in your discipline and in your habits. Leadership also involves taking charge and showing initiative in everything that you do. So, if your house is a mess and your place is a mess, you need to take the initiative and clean it up. If you want it to be kept clean all the time, that's on you. If you want a hot girlfriend, you need to take the initiative to go up to hot girls and start talking to them. If you want to get paid more money, you need to take charge and take the initiative, go ask your boss for a raise. Or if you don't deserve a raise, then you need to start working harder to demonstrate your value and show that you do deserve a raise. And those are just a couple examples. Ask yourself this, man. When did you become such a little bitch that you just started to take no action to crush your goals? And you started to just get in this mode where you think that learning more, that's somehow going to get you where you want to be instead of working towards your goals and taking action. You have to lead yourself first, and you lead by practicing self-control. Taking action involves practicing self-control. It is difficult. It involves delaying gratification. That's why semen retention is one of the most powerful acts of self-discipline that a man can practice. And if you don't believe that, if you don't believe that this is effective, I dare you to go 1 week without touching yourself and without ejaculating, and you will see what I mean. If you want that raw masculine energy that I was talking about earlier, that freaking Ricky Bobby type energy, this almost delusional self-confidence, then practice sexual discipline. Because a man's sexual desires, that is the Achilles heel of everything that he does in life. Look how messed up a man's life can get if he doesn't practice sexual discipline or if he makes poor decisions when it comes to sex. He can get a woman pregnant. He can tear his family apart. He can tear another family apart. He can get a disease. He can give a disease to someone else. And that's just to name a few things. Do you see how all of these things that I'm talking about, they all tie together? Because this actually goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that you need to stop making decisions based on how you feel. You need to stop just making decisions based on what feels good and start making decisions that just make sense. You need to be willing to delay gratification in your life because instant gratification is at the heart of modernity. Think about it. It has never been easier to physically gratify yourself than it is now. Whether it's some kind of hookup app, maybe it's dirty websites, maybe it's promiscuous photos of chicks on Instagram, instant gratification is literally available at your fingertips via the internet. The question is, are you going to give into it or are you going to reject modernity and embrace masculinity? Because that's what it's all about. Self-control. You decide what you do day to day. You dictate your fate based on the decisions that you make each and every single day. Let me tell you another story here. So back when I was in college, I dated this super toxic, narcissistic girl. She was insanely and pathologically manipulative, but for obvious reasons that I'll leave to your imagination, I stayed with her for about a whole year. And when I finally broke things off with her, because I was literally at risk of going to jail because of the kind of power that she held over me, I spent a lot of time just blaming her for everything after I broke things off with her. And one of the most clarifying moments of my life is when I realized that it was all my fault. I let her have that kind of power and control over me. I gave into her manipulation instead of putting my foot down. I gave in to my desires instead of just leaving when I knew it's what I needed to do. And because of this realization, I decided to take on all of the responsibility. All of it was my fault because I chose to allow it to happen. I let her walk all over me, I let her manipulate me, and I got what was coming to me because of my decisions. But the reason that was so clarifying for me is that I realized that I had the power to make decisions to improve my life as well. If I had the ability to choose those things that kind of did screw up my life a little bit, I had the power to reverse them too. Do you really think that you've been placed on this planet to just passively go through life, not making a difference? Do you think that you make a big difference in the world by going out to bars every single weekend, drinking and trying to hook up with girls? Do you really think that you're making a big difference in the world by watching hours and hours of sports content every single week just so that you have something to chat about with all your boys? Do you really think you're making a big difference in the world by just mindlessly scrolling through social media posts and liking people's posts? I mean, you need to stop being so heavily influenced by other people. If I could summarize this entire video, if I could just say plainly what I think it means to reject modernity and embrace masculinity, I would say that you need to just stop allowing yourself to be so easily and heavily influenced by other people. Write your own code for how you're going to live your life. Don't let other people write it for you. You can't allow other people to change you. You got to be your own man. You must have an unwavering determination to be your own man to the point where it's damn near unreasonable. That's how you reject modernity and embrace masculinity. Everything and everyone around you is screaming for you to just give in to what feels good. They're screaming for you to just be another pawn in society. They are screaming at you to just be a good boy who does what he's told. They are screaming at you to just give in to your primal desires. They're screaming at you to keep watching TV. They're screaming at you to keep drinking alcohol, to keep scrolling through social media, to keep watching all those dirty websites, to keep pedestalizing women. Reject all of it. Reject all of it. That's all I got for you, fellas. If you made it this far, I know you like this video, so go ahead and give it a thumbs up real quick. Subscribe for more content like this. I usually post about ways that men can boost their testosterone levels naturally, but guess what? Pretty much everything that society encourages men to do damages their testosterone levels. So it's not like this is some kind of standalone video here. But anyways, thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.